In the summer of 2010, the NBA changed forever. LeBron James, who was the best player on the planet and on pace to go down as one of the greatest of all time, decided to leave Cleveland, where he'd become a hometown hero, and join the Miami Heat, teaming up with two other top players, Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. Ever since that moment, we've entered the era of the Big Three. So in today's video, I want to rank the Big Three of every team in the league. So if you guys like the content, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. Let's try to get 29 likes on today's video, and let's hop into it. Now we need to whittle down the pool of teams, so we're going to start with some tiers before getting into the one-by-one rankings. The first tier is just going to be rebuilding teams that while they might have a bright future, we'd really just be ranking who has the worst Big Three rather than the better one. This is going to have teams like the Cavaliers, Kings, Pistons, Rockets, Magic, and Spurs. For what it's worth, I would definitely have the Thunder and Spurs at the bottom of this tier, and the Rockets and Kings towards the top. The next tier is going to be teams that have some great players. They're just way too top heavy that it's really just ranking individual players from teams rather than their collective Big Three. For example, you've got the Wizards here. Yes, they've got Bradley Beal, who's one of the top guards in the league, but who else is there in this Big Three? Is it Dinwiddie? Is it Kuzma? Is it KCP? I think you see where I'm getting at. Other teams here are going to be the Mavericks, Grizzlies, Clippers, and Blazers. I know some of those might be kind of controversial, but when you have a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr. or Reggie Jackson as the third member of your Big Three, it just doesn't feel right to consider that a Big Three. The next tier is going to be teams that have some very good players. There's just not a clear Big Three. This is going to be teams like the Knicks, Pacers, and Raptors. For the last tier, we've got some honorable mentions that were either close to cracking the top 10 or close to being in one of those other categories. When I first made the top 10, I had the Celtics in there, with a level that I think Brown and Tatum could be at next season, but I just couldn't justify Schroeder being the difference that would have them in the top 10 and not the Clippers. Then you've got the Timberwolves with a Big Three of Cat, D'Lo, and Anthony Edwards. He could without a doubt prove to be worthy of a spot in the top 10 next season, but I think we just have to see a little bit more. Then you've got the Hawks. This is a tough one. They're still very young, and they don't have a very clear Big Three. It's John Collins, and then is it Capella or is it DeAndre Hunter? For that reason, I'm going to put them as an honorable mention. The Pelicans were a tough one to rank. We expect big things from Zion and Brandon Ingram, but then we have to make the decision if we're going to consider Devontae Graham or Jonas Valanciunas as that third member. The Hornets, in my eyes, have a very clear Big Three: Lamelo Ball, Gordon Hayward, and Terry Rozier. That should do nothing but improve next season, but they're just not at the level to compete with the teams at the top just yet. Now for the top 10, a lot of these teams are very close, so just keep that in mind. And for most of the teams that are ranked beside each other, they're practically interchangeable. But starting it off at 10, we've got the Philadelphia 76ers with a Big Three of Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris. This was a team I struggled to make my mind on, and I wasn't even sure if I wanted to consider it a Big Three. And I still really believe that Ben Simmons isn't going to finish the season as a 76er. The talent is there. Joel Embiid is a top 2 center in the league, and without a doubt, the biggest two-way difference maker at that position. Tobias Harris's game isn't very well rounded, but he's a hyper-efficient scorer, averaging 20 points this season, hovering around 50, 40, 90. And then Ben Simmons, while his liabilities on offense have been widely reported over the last few months, he's still one of the top defenders in the NBA. But it's the question marks around him and his fit alongside the other members of this Big Three that rank the 76ers here for now. At 9, we've got the newly formed Big Three in Chicago of Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, and DeMar DeRozan. Now this is an example of a top Big Three, but not necessarily a top team, but man should they be fun to watch. They're led by legitimately one of the most dominant scorers in the league, Zach LaVine. They got Vucevic at the deadline, who averaged 23 points and 12 rebounds on amazing efficiency, including 40% from 3. And then DeMar DeRozan, who while yes has no 3-point shot whatsoever, he's still a 22-point-a-game scorer that can bring a lot as a playmaker to this offense. Now for this Big Three to work, you're going to need a lot of defense around them, which I'm not sure they do, but for now, I think 9 feels right. At 8, we've got the Utah Jazz, and their Big Three of Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, and Rudy Gobert. Donovan Mitchell is in just his 4th season. He's averaging 26 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds, and at 24 years old, he's far from done improving. Then you've got the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, who while yes, had a lot of red flags raised in that series against the Clippers, he's undoubtedly the best rim protector in the league. And then there's Mike Conley, who's getting up there in age, but is still an elite 2-way point guard. 7 is going to be another newly formed Big Three, and that's the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, and Bam Adebayo. While it doesn't feel like it because of how long it took Lowry to become a top point guard, he's 34 years old, but unless we see some serious year-over-year regression, he can be a real difference maker for this Miami Heat team that was in the finals not long ago. Last season, He averaged 17 points and 7 assists, shooting 40% from 3. Then you've got Jimmy Butler, who doesn't have the most impressive stats on paper, but when you consider what he can do as a secondary playmaker on the defensive end and his ability to get to the free throw line, his game translates to winning basketball. And then you've got Bam Adebayo, who's one of the most versatile big men in the league. He can guard most every position on the court at an elite level. He's one of the best playmakers at his position, and he's quickly improving as a scorer. This past year, he was able to average 19 points a game. I feel confident in this ranking based on the trajectory of Bam's development. Then you've got the Phoenix Suns, who just made a trip to the NBA Finals, led by their big three of Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. At 24 years old, Devin Booker is a top scorer. As things stand right now, Chris Paul is playing at an elite level, but I don't want to get too aggressive ranking this team with him being 36 years old. He's got to slow down eventually. DeAndre Ayton is the X factor for them. This past season, he took a massive jump I didn't see coming on the defensive end. If we see another big jump out of him, this trio could end up much higher on the list. The first team to crack the top 5 is going to be the Denver Nuggets with their big three of Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. There has never been a time in NBA history where a center had the case for being the best playmaker in the whole league till this past season with Jokic. He put together one of the best offensive seasons we've ever seen from the center position. He averaged 26 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists on absolutely incredible efficiency. Jamal Murray suffered a season-ending injury, but before going down, was averaging 21 points, shooting 41% from 3. He's really a shooting guard, but when you have a center like Nikola Jokic, you have the luxury of not having to sacrifice talent for playmaking. And then you have Michael Porter Jr., whose incoming breakout puts the Nuggets this high. He deserves to be the betting favorite for most improved, coming off what was really his second season, averaging 19 points and 7 rebounds, shooting 54% from the field and 45% from 3. At 4, we've got the reigning champion Milwaukee Bucks with their big three of Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday. There's not much to be said here. Giannis is one of the best players in the league. Middleton's an elite 3-level scorer, and this is undoubtedly the most well-rounded trio considering what all three can do on both ends of the ball. 3 is going to be the Golden State Warriors, who have been towards the top of this list for years now, with their big three of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. Stephen Curry is still the best point guard in the league. He put together an historic performance this past season, and he's not slowing down anytime soon. Klay's returning from injury, and unless we see him really slow down, he should still be the greatest 3-and-D wing the league has ever seen. Now, Draymond's value is heavily debated, but I think his scoring struggles won't be much of a conversation once he's reunited with Curry and Klay with the defensive versatility and playmaking he brings to this team. 2 is going to be the Los Angeles Lakers with their big three of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook. Now, I have concerns about Westbrook because, as we should know, a player's ability to get triple-doubles doesn't matter at all, but I'm still pretty bullish with what his presence allows with minute stacks and the Lakers' efforts to put shooting around this big three. LeBron James at 36 years old is still one of the best players on the planet, and Anthony Davis dealt with a lot of injuries, but if healthy, should still be one of the top big men on both ends of the ball. Now, I think we all know who number 1 is. It's the Brooklyn Nets with their big three of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. While yes, they're not great on the defensive end, when you literally have 3 of some of the greatest scorers to ever do it on the same team, it's going to be nearly impossible to beat them in a 7-game series if they're all able to stay healthy, which obviously plagued their playoff run this past season. But just listen to their stat lines they posted this past year. Kyrie averaged 27, 6, and 5, shooting 51% from the field and 40% from 3. Harden averaged 25, 11, and 9, shooting 47% from the field and 37% from 3. Durant averaged 27 and 7, shooting 54% from the field and 45% from 3. The fact that at least one of these players is going to be on the court at any given time is just insane, and they're undoubtedly the top big three and possibly the best big three of all time. But that's the video, guys. You guys give me your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.